What's going on, guys? Matt here with my brother Ryan, previewing this Lakers Wolves series, and we've each made solo videos on this series about why we do think the Lakers have an edge in this series. And so, if you haven't seen those and would like to check those out, feel free to. But with that being said, we both think the Lakers are going to win, but it's definitely not going to be an easy series. And one of the main reasons is because of Anthony Edwards, who's one of the best young stars in the NBA. And if the Wolves do find a way to win this series, it will be because of him. And so trying to slow him down is going to be priority number one. And it's definitely going to be more complicated than just putting Reeves on him and saying, try to stop him. At least in my opinion, I think JJ and the Lakers' entire game plan is going to be predicated around him, which could include double teams, could be blitzing him, anything to stop him. So, with that being said, how do you think the Lakers try and stop him? Who gets the assignment in game one? And do you think they're going to double team him? How do you think we handle ball screens? Just what do you think about this matchup? Because he is a dangerous player.
Yeah, I think he is like the most amplified version of the perimeter ball handlers that the Lakers have really tried to eliminate in the post Luka trade era. There was a stretch for a very good amount of the season where the Lakers were an elite defense before LeBron's first bout with the groin injury. When he came back, it kind of took some time to adjust. But in that stretch, they did see a lot of perimeter style guys, and Ant was actually one of them in that stretch. And they really, really focused on shifting the entire focus of the defense to his side and stopping him from getting to the middle of the floor where he has a bunch of options. So, excuse me for answering a question with a question, but in that sense where you've seen us really like double, or at least your perimeter ball handler is seeing 1.5 guys at all times, basically. Is that something you want to see where we're committing so much pressure, or do you want to start the series kind of one on one and seeing how we could work from there?
I think I do like seeing more pressure because the thing with the Timberwolves and one of the reasons I was excited that we drew them in the first round is because if Anthony Edwards does have a weakness and the Timberwolves kind of as a whole, it is playmaking. And I think the best way to like combat the Lakers defense or any type of defense that is like heavy on doubling and rotating is with playmaking because if you're sending two to the ball, there's obviously going to be someone open and Ant is not yet maybe does get there but not at the level of like a Luka LeBron Jokic to where he can immediately make a read and it's a snap decision to find the open guy like that. So I would like to send more resources, maybe 1.5, like you said, at Ant because and force him to beat us with his playmaking because, like I said, that's probably the weakest part of his game right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. There's been a lot of discussion about this, obviously. Bunch of different Laker podcasts and content stuff, which I really enjoy listening to. And it seemed like the general sentiment was that one, public is undervaluing, excuse me, the Timberwolves like overall. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but in that sense, it's because of guys like Nas Reed and Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, I think is the most important one. So in this conversation about stopping Ant slash how we defend him, how much do, excuse me, those players come into play, especially someone like Julius Randle, who ironically might actually be the best playmaker in terms of on ball creation, just because he can create advantage for himself. So how much do you consider guys like Nas Reed and Dante in this discussion of guarding Ant?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're really important because based off how they're shooting the ball. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the Lakers, with how important Gabe and DFS are to the team because if the shot's falling versus if it's not. The Timberwolves don't have too many guys other than Gobert that you could just completely leave open and not worry about them. So it is definitely dangerous, and it's something to think about when you think of sending two to Ant, doubling Ant, because Nah or NAW, I mean, DiVincenzo, these guys can't hit open shots. So it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, yeah. I sorry, keep barraging you with questions, but do you think the way they guarded the Thunder in that first game specifically, because the Thunder went crazy the second game, at least in the first half, but like the tape we saw from the Thunder, do you consider that like a reasonable way to approach guarding like a really heliocentric offense with one singular perimeter star and a secondary creator in Jalen Williams that I think is better than anyone the Timberwolves have for sure. But like in that structure, the Lakers actually let Rui in that first game at least, and Reeves to some extent, and DFS even like they were playing Shea not straight up because they obviously had shaded over help, but in terms of the traps and stuff that they did with Ant in the most recent matchup they had, it wasn't really as much. So I personally kind of want to see the team start off without blitzing. They're never gonna let someone play on the island with Ant because that's not a formula to win. But I think if I could have the opportunity to see how our perimeter defense handles him, um, and seeing how like in a heavy switching scheme, which the Lakers will be running, how that impacts Ant on ball. I kind of personally want to see that before we start blitzing, even though we're probably going to blitz game one and throughout the series for sure. But in terms of like using that as a primary strategy, I'd rather see some more semi straight up defense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like that you compared it to that first OKC game because I think they're somewhat similar in the sense that they're not. The reason I actually like our matchup against OKC too, which hopefully we'll get there Western Conference Finals, is again for a similar reason because of the lack of playmaking. Because I mean, you could tell I've brought it up twice already. I think that's like my biggest fear is playing a team that can make those reads because if the late that's the one thing that could hurt the Lakers. I think so. I do agree. I think again, I agree that maybe we could start off without blitzing. I'm just so convinced that JJ is gonna blitz, so
Yeah.
I've already accepted it. So I mean, do you think? I mean, in my opinion, I think for a game one, you could always adjust. It's a 7 game series, so it is almost always, unless it's someone like Jokic, it is almost always better to make them prove that they can tear you apart. And goes for 40. Okay, maybe we do have to blitz. So what like if you, so you said you want to start kind of more without blitzing, at what point do you think like you have to double, you have to blitz? Is it like he has to drop 40 or something like that, or what's the when do you think you decide to switch?
Honestly, I don't. I I think as opposed to it being like a consistent thing where we see with Luca, it would seem like some quarters they're just saying anytime we touch the ball, we're sitting two. I don't think the Lakers are going to be doing that at all. I don't think they're going to do it to that extent. That's the better way I should say it. What I think is that they should try to see because like guys like Reeves and Rui on the and especially in the starting lineup, for as much as they're not like ball stoppers on the perimeter, they're very good at funneling defense. Granted, it's because you're literally giving them the lane, but if you want to play the step back three that Ant uses really well, he's made the most 3 pointers in the entire league last year, this season. If you want to take that away and try to see if you could goad him into shots you're okay with him taking. He will shoot a pull up mid range very happily, and he's good, so he's gonna make them. But if you can get early in the game him into more of like a having to take tougher twos because Reeves is playing like under him and he's funneling to baseline help or something like that, I would try to see his how many reps we can get out of that, and then use blitzes more as like a snap, like psych them out, surprise them, like hit and run type thing, and then come back and like use blitzing or like hard traps on pick and rolls as like a weapon as opposed to something they need to do to stop him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, honestly, I love what you said there. I think I mean, I love our coaching staff with JJ Redick and the rest of the guys. I do think that is what they'll do. I don't think they're gonna say like I think what they're gonna try to do is Ant's a star player is not one thing. This is how we're gonna stop him. I think, like you said, weaponize him. Weaponize what you have. Give him so many different looks to confuse him because he is still a young player. I don't think it's gonna be a set. We're doubling every single time. Put two on the ball at all times. I don't think they're gonna guard him straight up with Reeves, straight up with Rui. I think that is the solution. I think they give him a bunch of different looks. And like you said, if for a few possessions, it's straight up, and then you blitz them out of nowhere, it could lead to a turnover. I think that's what's the kind of thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and you like especially early in the series where you don't want to necessarily give away every single look you have on a consistent basis. Even though I know coaches don't hold anything back because you want to win every game. I think yeah, like having that as a kind of quick hitter as opposed to consistent because it also when you double like that, you are putting yourself in rotation like voluntarily. And the Lakers, when they're locked in, are actually incredible in rotation, at least in my opinion. They have a bunch of very professional, know where to be guys that work very hard. So they're able to get to the perimeter. It's just that that's not a super sustainable way to play defense through like I'm trying to win a 7 game series by it being in rotation for 80% of the minutes we're on defense. Like it's very tough. So yeah, that's where my thoughts are right now, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. You have to be locked in for the entire game for seven. That's why we lose games to the Bulls because
Yeah,
defensively they're not locked in on a random Bulls games. So it
definitely.
is interesting to see, like as the playoffs progress, like how locked in can they stay in for the full game, for the full 7 games, and the series after that. So it is definitely interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, like Matt said in the early part of the video, we both have solo vids out as more like a specific analysis. Um, so if you stuck around through this video, please go check them out. We would really appreciate it. We'll be back hopefully with recaps after every single game of the playoffs, and again, hopefully that lasts more than this series. Matt, since this is technically our last video before Game One, do you want to give a final like prediction for who wins the series and in how many games?
I think it's definitely the Lakers. If you've seen our videos, just we've talked about the advantage they have, and I think just as great as Ant is, I think the Lakers can exploit their weaknesses more than they can ours. So I'll say Lakers. It's tempting to say 5, but a lot of things do have to happen. I'll say Lakers in 6.
Yeah, I am going with your first instinct. I respect Ant a bunch, and I hope he stays in Minnesota and they do right by him so we can have another like real franchise pillar. But that being said, the hope for them is that Julius Randle can maintain his regular season form, which he's never done in the playoffs before. And if he does, then they would have enough muscle offensively, in my opinion, to kind of say we can even out a little bit. And that's like the best case scenario for Julius Randle. In every other scenario, I think the Lakers simply have too many weapons offensively, and they have the potential to be too um, consistent defensively. So yeah, I'm saying Lakers in 5. I don't think any of the games are gonna be a blowout. I think it's gonna be very hard fought 5. But ultimately, I can't see it any other way, honestly. So yeah, those are our final predictions. Thank you so much for watching. Again, like we said, we'll be back after every game and hopefully in between because we do have a couple days off in between games 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4, which is great for us. So I'm gonna try to sneak in some analysis videos there as well. Thanks so much for watching. Go Lakers.